we'll make a wee start. So you're all very welcome till March's Policy and Resources Committee meeting. It's hard to believe we're now in March, so that's the way it is. Part one, any apologies? We do have apologies from Councillor Eddie Roof. Have we any other apologies? Councillor Brown?
Yeah, apology from Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Anne-Marie Donnelly. Any other apologies? Item 2 is to sign minutes and confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 14th of February. Just do that. Right. Okay, and 3, any declarations of interest? Councillor Robbins.
Chair, it's item 5.1, Paper B, Appendix 3. It's the draft response to the Western Trust's corporate plan. Thank you.
Okay. Have we any other declarations of interest? Yeah, go ahead, Alison.
Thank you, Chair. If I could just make a collective declaration on behalf of officers present. There are a number of correspondence items relating to pay claims, so just for a wider declaration, please.
Okay, thank you. Any other declarations of interest? No? Okay, so moving on then to 4.1 is to consider an update to the Council's Scheme of Delegation and Planning Committee protocol. That's paper A. And Alison, take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, this is, as the report sets out, it's part of our wider improvement programme, and the proposed amendments have all been brought through and supported by the Planning Committee. And in accordance with our own arrangements, we then update the scheme of delegation and associated documentation through policy and resources. So just a recommendation that we would approve as presented, please.
Thank you, Alison. Have we any questions or comments on that at all? If not, I'll take a proposer and seconder, please. Councillor Warrington and Councillor Mahan. We all agreed? Okay, 4.2 is our, 5.1 is to consider report and consultations, paper B, and that's Louise. Sorry, Louise.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the recommendation at number 9.1 is that the Council approves the draft responses submitted in relation to 3 consultation responses. Firstly, the Arts Council NI Strategy consultation response. Secondly, the Home Office's consultation on Martin's Law. And thirdly, the response on the Western Trust's pre-engagement exercise on their corporate plan. And I think it's important to note on that one that this is an early opportunity to comment, but the full plan will be developed, and we expect to see that at a later stage. And that's an opportunity to refer to possibly the wider range of services or lack of across the district. And at 9.2, that the Council notes the additional information presented on a number of consultations submitted to the consultations that have submitted since the last P&R committee. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much, Louise. Have we any questions for Louise or any comments at all? Councillor Brown, Dermot.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, happy to note the consultation responses there, and just to say, I suppose on the one that we're responding to from the Western Trust, that's a very good and strong response, stating the importance of the bringing emergency general surgery back to the SWA. You know, I hope that they take note of our response, because it's simply unacceptable that situation can go on. You know, now that we have the Minister in place, he should be doing all that he can to bring those services back to the SWA, and the Western Trust likewise need to be doing all they can to bring those services back. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Dermot. And you're happy to propose the recommendations 9192 as they are? Councillor McAuliffe.
I'm interested in the Arts Council consultation, and you know, rather than this being just a regular rehash of our feeling of deficit, you know, between east and west of the Bann, what can we achieve? And in terms of lobbying the Arts Council, are they visible to us? Are they accessible to us? And how do we as a council at this time engage with our local arts community? There was in the past fora, in place for to do that. That's not in place right now. So have we lost contact with the arts community in our own council area, or are there mechanisms for communication? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, maybe Alison, yeah.
Chair, in relation to the first part of the question about the visibility, I suppose, of the Arts Council to us, we would have engagement primarily actually through the chair would communicate more in written form. I understand there would be an interest for the Arts Council to have a future board meeting in the district, and maybe if members were minded, as a recommendation from this committee, we could extend a formal invitation for them to do so. In terms of the engagement with the local arts community and representatives, certainly I am aware of significant work that's ongoing in that area, perhaps not in a formalised way, but we could certainly bring a report on that through, but it would be to Regeneration and Community as the relevant committee. But certainly I think we have probably benefited even in some of the work recently on the heritage plan from specific input by the arts community as well.
I would welcome a report coming back to the RNC committee, and not for the sake of it, but it might be a good idea, and I would propose that, should it be in the autumn, that we schedule an informal meeting with the Arts Council so that we can cross-examine them a bit on their commitment to our council area.
Okay, so that's a formal proposal.
Yeah.
Councillor Green?
If the seconder needed for that, I'm happy to second it. Just on art again, I'm wondering, we used to highlight and showcase local artists, and one of the ways we did it was on the stairway up there in the town hall. There used to be an artist picked and their work was displayed for a number of months, I believe. I don't think that has happened in a while. I'm just wondering why. And if it was being redone, I would like to recommend a local artist called Zanga Sharkey. Maybe could be showcased for a number of months, and that I think it was a good initiative. I used to look at some of the art and scratch my head, but I suppose that's what art is. It's whatever you take out of it yourself, and that. So I think it was a good initiative, and I think we should start it up again.
Yeah, quite else.
Again, Chair, we can bring the detail through, but it's something we've always operated in conjunction with the Enniskillen Castles Museums primarily, as well as part of the ongoing, indeed I know the chair, our current council chair, the chair's pieces as well. So we have had art on the stairwell up until quite recently as well, but it does rotate. But maybe what I would do is, again, we could bring the detail of that through, note the request around the artist that's been proposed. It's normally artists that we would already have an arrangement with or have commitments to display, and it may be in the case of the artist that Councillor Green has named that's also the case. With regard to the wider arts or painting art provision about across both of the Town Hall and the Grange, the intention is that we will be using the various chairs pieces as on almost semi-permanent display in both of the main civic buildings.
Yeah, well, would I suggest that maybe we should look, I'm not saying we should do it, but maybe we should look at trying to showcase and highlight up-and-coming artists maybe that we haven't seen before, and maybe it'd be a way of giving local art a boost.
Okay, good idea, Councillor Green, for sure. I'll be seconder for Councillor Green's proposal, Councillor Brough. And can I get a seconder just for the overall report, please? Oh, you did second it, Seamus, okay, and we're all agreed. Yeah. Okay, 5.2 then, so to consider the report on financial matters, paper C, and that's Catherine.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and members. Paper C includes two items for decision. First, management accounts for the 10-month period ended 31st of January. And like last month, the detailed review has been undertaken and the variances are consistent with those of the previous month. leaving a net operating expenditure for the period of £31,873,070 out of a budget profiled for the same period of £35,226,898, leaving total costs to be financed of £36,408,760 against a budget of £37,993,564. And members next month will present the 11-month position and a review of the progression towards the end of year 31st of March position and an indication of surpluses at that point in time. The second item, members, is the service pricing model, and it is a fairly detailed document attached at Appendix 2, and linked to that document as well, members, is a very detailed listing, if you can imagine, across all of the particular services. So in parts of that document, it will refer to the word various prices. So therefore, you can imagine the raft of prices within our leisure facilities, our theatres, castles, etc., etc. So there is further detailed working behind Appendix 2 if members require that level of detail. And I know most departments, most service facilities will publish those details subject to approval as soon as they become effective. They take account of a wide range, and this is the second year, members, that we've been able to bring a full pricing paper across the council. It is a work in progress. There are still small elements to be developed, and it is recommended within that regard that the pricing paper seeks approval for directors to establish new pricing models in year for newly developed services and products, and may vary pricing in year based on assessment of changing market external conditions and volatility. And just to remind ourselves that the service pricing model is based on the methodology and the assumptions included within the 24-25 estimates that were approved last month, which in most cases it's a 5% minimum increase on prices. Just for noting, members, then a number of correspondence or website updates really from the department in relation to the regional rates order for 2024, which fixes the amount of regional domestic rate and the regional non-domestic rate at an increase of 4% on the current figures, and that's for the year ending 31st of March 2025. The district rate tables, then, members, for Northern Ireland councils was also recently published. The link is attached in the document, and we've also attached at Appendix 3 district rate statistics provided by the Department for Communities for all 11 councils. And just noting, Fermanagh and Omagh District Council remains the lowest non-domestic rate of 25.57p and the 6th lowest domestic rate of 0.4223p. Members, subject to any queries, the recommendations are set out on section 9.1 and 9.2 of the report.
Okay, thanks a million, Catherine. Councillor Irving.
Yeah, just a query before the recommendations, and it's really basically on the accounts for period ending 31st of January. Catherine, there's a reasonable variance. In other words, a big underspend right across all departments. There's a couple of overspend. I'm just wondering, one, is that a timing issue? I know we're going towards year-end accounts and see where we're going. And it's just the hike to a certain extent, or the underspend in finance. I would just like a bit more detail across some of the service areas as to why there's such a vast difference sitting at month 10.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. So, members, if you look at Appendix 1, you will note the significant variations there in relation to the top service areas being waste management, parks, estates and property, wellbeing and cultural services, and community and regulatory service. So I suppose continuing on from previous months, the most significant variance there is the difference in the electricity rate per unit that was used in the preparation of the estimates, and I think we covered that last month, and the actual rate, the very positive reduction in rate that the council is achieving. Coupled with that, as I mentioned last month, a new contract was also taken out for electricity provision. So whilst that covers the vast majority of it, there is also, again, a positive surplus in relation to heating costs, again, linked back through to the unit rate set through the estimates and the actual rates currently being achieved. There wouldn't be any timing variances in relation to those, and both those are just under 900,000 at the moment of those variances. There is also quite a significant variance or overall, and it wouldn't be very different from the norm in relation to salaries and wages. So at the moment, the total underspend in salaries and wages is around £900,000, and the majority of that relates to timing and differences in vacancies and absences in post, etc. And then there has been the review by CLT, the corporate leadership team, within the year of all vacant posts and where they are. And then the other very positive variance is that income levels have achieved over and above what the income levels were set by members in the estimates for that particular year. The one specifically there in relation to finance, again, is really related to the external market conditions. So again, when we were setting the estimates, we were very prudent in relation to setting the interest, depending on the timing of spend, etc. But this council is now currently receiving interest rates in excess of 5%, almost above the base rate in some respects. Now, whilst that is shown as a significant variance, the majority of that interest must be set against our reserve balances. It's not a figure that we can bring into the operating income expenditure for the year end 31st of March. So yes, it sits within the budget, but down below the line, it is transferred out and transferred to capital reserve. So they are very positive, and the majority of those, with the exception of the staffing, of about £1 million savings at this point in time, are as a result of external factors and positive variances. I would
Sorry, Chair, just following on from that. I mean, that's to be commended. Prudence always is something that we need to do. We just happen to be in a market flux, and we are actually the beneficiaries of the market flux, which is very good. The one thing I would ask, maybe going into the new financial year, and it's well ahead, I suppose, of the estimates, we've had a kick in some of our other budget lines, particularly our capital budgets. Could the officers look and see whether this is a situation that may continue into next year? And that it's something maybe that the officers could look at as a preemptive move in regard to what we could do, particularly on the capital side. If we're transferring a lot into reserves, great. And I see one of the recommendations is that our pricing model, we're sort of increasing the pricing in line with inflation, which I'm happy enough with. But if we could maybe get ahead of the curve, possibly going into next year, to see whether we can do something slightly earlier than we thought we could do it on the capital side. I'm not talking about revenue spend. So that's just a comment. Thanks for the update, and I'm happy to put forward the recommendations as listed under 9.1, that's A and B, and 9.2 to note the information on the rates across Northern Ireland.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, and yeah, just to conclude on that one, just to confirm that most definitely the fluctuations in the electricity and heating was most definitely taken into account in the 24-25 estimates, and the income levels achieved in this current year was also included next year. So I wouldn't expect such a significant variation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay. Councillor Robbins, Mark, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Catherine, for the report, as usual. I mean, I suppose, Chair, I'd start more with a broader comment, and I suppose this would be for us as members or committee members. I mean, we just need to be clear and recognise what these figures mean to ourselves. And whenever I look at this, and I see lots of figures being moved around, and figures can be topped up and money can be transferred into reserves. But ultimately, what we're looking at here is a position of an underspend of 3 million, in excess of 3 million this year. I appreciate around £1 million, £1.5 million has been put back into reserves, which is sensible and it's prudent. But we just need to remember that that is happening in the context of lots of public-facing services that this council is responsible for being stripped back this year and last year. So we just need to be mindful of that. And I do take on board your point, Catherine, about, we are in a pretty volatile market, and electricity prices and lots of things were up and down over the last 12 or 24 months. But this underspend was not unexpected. We have been on this trajectory for quite some time. From memory, whenever I look back to last May, one of my first meetings of this committee, I think we looked at last year's accounts, and there was a similar, perhaps not to this extent, but there was also a similar underspend in last year's accounts. So it's just to make that broader point, Chair, that, you know, it's sensible and absolutely better to be in a positive position of an underspend rather than overspend. And I've said that a few times before, but we just need to be mindful that this council is significantly underspending at the same time as other important public-facing services are being significantly scaled back. And that's a decision and that's a choice and a policy decision for us as members to be mindful of. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Evans. I suppose, as Councillor Irvine says, prudence pays off, and we come in this year as the lowest non-domestic rate, which has to be welcomed, and we're in the lower end of the regional rate, or sorry, the domestic rate for the district as well. So that's all very welcome as well. Can I get a seconder, please, for this report? Councillor Hawkes, and are we all agreed? Okay. So that takes us on to procurement and tenders, paper D. That you again, Catherine?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So members, within this report, there is one tender proposed for award, subject to approval by yourselves. And there is, I'm just trying to count them, there's 5 contracts for extension. There's a framework update in relation to individual professional services. And then for noting members, there's 2 tenders awarded under delegation and an update on the council's development of a contractor framework. So subject to any recommendations, or any queries, the recommendations are as detailed at section 9.1 and 9.2 of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Councillor Irvine?
Yeah, happy to make the recommendations. Could I just make a point, possibly, Catherine, particularly on the contracts to be extended? It may be useful for us as members that when we get this information in front, if we could have an addendum just in brackets after each of those, to say whether this is the first year extension, second year extension, or third year extension. I know we can extend out to the third year, but then we have to go through retender, and it's purely just to see where we are in that system from a visibility point of view. That would just be for noting. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Catherine, happy enough. Yeah. Councillor Evans, Mark?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks again, Catherine. I suppose, again, it's more a general observation at this point. I mean, we're now in the month of March, and, you know, I've been watching for these committee reports to come through every month, and I've been looking and I've been waiting to see the procurement and the tender exercise in relation to the council's engagement in the upcoming public inquiry over the Dalradian proposal. And Chair, I mean, I make the point, it is now March. My understanding is there's to be a pre-inquiry meeting or hearing of that inquiry in Omagh next week. Final statements or final substantive statements are to be submitted by mid-May, so that's only really a couple of months away. But yet I still don't see anything in either this month's or last month's committee report that details how the council is going to go out and procure that external independent advice. Because whilst council may think the decision is not necessary, whilst I understand the council has taken the decision previously to participate in the inquiry, I mean, that's the wrong decision in my opinion, but I respect the council's position on that. But what is a matter of fact, and it is a simple matter of fact, our engagement through that public inquiry will still have to be through the usual standing procurement exercises and processes and internal council processes, because this council has been quite quick to refer to the council's need to procure on other occasions, and sometimes I felt that that was a deliberate tactic by the council. But in this case, it's more just seeking assurance at this stage, Chair, whether any external consultants or independent advice, or called what you may, has been procured by the council so far. Because if it has, I haven't seen it, so I'd like to know when or how that was put through the council's clear and defined processes and procedures, because I haven't seen that yet. Thank you.
Okay, maybe Chair or Chief Executive might declare an interest maybe in that particular topic as a member of the Planning Committee, an error and caution maybe. I don't know if somebody else wants to take the chair for this particular piece, just to be safe. Someone wants to come up maybe and just chair this particular. He can't. Well, it's up. He's a member of the committee as well. I'll just take guidance here, maybe.
Chair, just to say, I mean, I'm going to respond specifically on the procurement query, which doesn't stray out to any of the related matters.
Okay.
But if planning committee members wish to if maybe following that comment, if there's anything for substantive, but I wouldn't have thought there would be
no, that's
conflict.
okay.
And I have been previously in correspondence with the member on this issue. So the council has resolved that we proceed to procure the external expertise that's required for our involvement in the inquiry, and the details will be provided for noting to the Policy and Resources Committee meeting. An approval is not required, Councillor, and we've gone over this a few times.
Briefly, Councillor Robbins, I think that's pretty clear advice from the Chief Executive.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate, I mean, I take the point on board that the Chief Executive makes that the Council has taken the decision to procure. I haven't seen any of the details within this report, and it is, we cannot proceed to procure at any cost. If, for instance, or for argument's sake, one external consultant was to come in at £1 million and one consultant was to come in at £10,000, that is a decision that needs to be put through these clearly defined processes.
I think there's probably maybe unwittingly a little bit of misinformation. The council has agreed a budget. The council has agreed a scope. The council has also agreed on matters that will come before the inquiry, which it's not appropriate for me to discuss in open business, but I can summarise in confidential later because it's the subject of legal advice. So I'm sorry, Councillor, it is not correct that we require a further approval.
Chair, on that point, I have a totally opposite opinion.
Okay, well,
I have never, as a member of this council, I've never been consulted on a maximum cost. I've never been consulted on the levels or the details of the external consultants that we are to utilise.
Okay.
In my opinion, the council is wrong on this.
If you want to raise it any further.
The council's making a mistake on this. The council has erred mistakenly in the past. It has taken the wrong mistake. We have been badly advised, the council previously, both internally and legally, and this is another case, and we are leaving ourselves wide open to legal implications.
We'll leave it there, Councillor Robbins. Thank you. Your comment is noted. Be seconder for that, please, report. Councillor Green. And are we all agreed? Okay. 6.1 then, so takes us on to the staff matters, paper E. And I think we've got Thelma there, have we?
Thank you, Chair. Just two items really for information shared with you tonight. The first one relates to the employee contribution rates for the Northern Ireland Civil Service Pension Scheme. And the second item, which as Chief Executive declared an interest in for all of us earlier, is just to note the 3 pay claims for the 3 groups and categories of employees that we would have within the council. These are the trade union side claims, and obviously you will be aware, Chair and members, that our pay is negotiated at a national level. Just earlier this afternoon, we did have a briefing session with the organised through NILGA, just on the process in relation to the national pay negotiations for 24-25. And we would be expected it would be May at the earliest before we would know any further information in terms of an offer. For the pay negotiations in 24-25. So, Chair, those items are reported for noting. So that's the Civil Service Pension Scheme employee pension contribution rates applicable from the 1st of April this year, and the information that is provided to you in relation to the pay claims for the 24-25 negotiations.
Okay, thanks a million, Thelma. Councillor Irvine.
Yeah, and it's not anything in particular. This is a national pay claim, but we will realise as members that the unions locally raised a local claim. Is there any indication whether that's going to happen again this year or not?
Thelma, yeah.
Not at this point. We have no ongoing. I mean, Unite were the union that were in dispute with us, and they have lifted that dispute. They haven't indicated to us that they are in dispute over this. So this year's pay, as in 23-24, they didn't raise any dispute with us locally on that. So this is the negotiations for the coming year, but we have no indication at this point.
Is there any cut-off for them?
Well, when they did raise the claim, Chair, the claim was raised after the final offer was made. So it was about, the dispute started in December after the April when the pay award applied for them. So if you can understand me, it's probably a bit early days yet to assess that.
It's okay. I'm not asking for the details. I'm just wondering if there's an indicator. Obviously, there's no indicator yet. Thanks very much.
Happy to propose a recommendation?
Yeah, I'm happy to propose, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Be a seconder for them, please. Councillor Josephine Dehan, thank you. And are we all agreed? Okay, 7 is the correspondence then, so if I can just ask Alison to take us through these number of items correspondence.
Okay, Chair, the first is details of a councillor mental health and wellbeing workshop that NILGA are arranging, and we're keen that we commend that to you. You'll see the details. It's by Zoom next Wednesday from 6 to 8:30. But we would just ask if anyone wishes to participate, they would notify Democratic Services really for the purposes of issuing the invitations.
Okay, so proposer and seconder to note that, please. Councillor Deehan and Councillor Hawkes.
Chair, thank you. The next corresponds from NILGA, and I do appreciate this has probably largely been superseded by the return of the executive, but these were NILGA's responses to the various rates revenue raising consultations and the concerns expressed on behalf of NILGA and the sector, and they were keen that they were presented to the relevant committee, which in our case is this evening's committee. So again, just really for noting, Chair.
Okay. Any questions or queries, comments? No? Proposer and seconder, please. Councillor McPhillips and Councillor Irvine. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. And lastly, we have one item of other correspondence. It's from the Department for Communities, and it follows on from the correspondence we had received regarding the suspension of the emergency measures for remote and hybrid meetings. So hopefully this correspondence may give members some reassurance that the Department and the Minister are working speedily to bring forward new regulations as soon as possible, which would have a permanent basis as opposed to being lodged within the emergency measures. The draft regulations have also been circulated, and the Legal Officers Group, I know, are meeting with the Department for Communities later this week to discuss them. They'd be very similar to the previous provision, Chair. We do have a couple of actions from the Council meeting regarding the timescale and process for adoption of any new regulations, and we would obviously bring those to members' attention as soon as we receive responses. I'm not sure, Chair, if there's anything by way of concern that members would wish to highlight in relation to the draft regulations as presented. You'll see the deadline is, I think, the 27th of March for us to make our submissions. Sorry, 26th of March.
Okay, thank you, Alison. Councillor Deehan.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thanks to Alison for her report. Chair, I welcome this correspondence. It certainly will make life an awful lot easier for many of us, and the return to hybrid working certainly will bring positive benefits to us all and to the environment. I'm content enough with the proposed legislation. I'm happy to propose to note the correspondence, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deehan. Councillor Brown.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, this is very, very positive news that we're finally going to get legislation for this. I think a lot of people will be scratching their heads wondering why the emergency legislation couldn't have been extended for a period whilst this legislation was prepared and consulted on, and then have a seamless transition into the next bit without the hybrid meetings collapsing. So good, it's good news, but again, it was very, very bizarre how this came about.
Thanks, Dermot. Are you happy to second the note? Thank you, Dermot. All agreed? Okay, is that the correspondence, Alison? Yeah. One item of AOB from Councillor Michael Duff. Barry? Sorry.
Chair, it's a policy matter for the council. That's why I felt it was appropriate to raise it here. And again, I don't think I need answers on the night because it'll probably be another committee that will be brought back to. But I think it's about the lifting of animals, dead animals on the road. That's really what it's about. Seeking clarity as to whether or not the council has any role in the matter or what other agencies are involved. You know, a constituent in Oma brought to my attention a dead animal that was lying for some considerable time, you know, and caused kind of concern. So the council may have no role, it may have some role, and there might be other agencies involved. What is the protocol if a member of the public wanted to draw attention to the presence of a dead animal in the road?
Okay, maybe that wouldn't be brought back.
Certainly, Chair, we would, as Councillor McElduff indicates, maybe come to environmental services. I think in broad terms, but we will look at the detail properly, that where a dead animal would be on what would be defined as the public carriageway, it would be a responsibility for DFI roads, but we'd be able to set out in the report the respective responsibilities, but also the wider point as to how the community then raises concern or to get those actioned. But we
Okay.
can get that done for next month.
Back to environmental services, okay. Can I seconder for that report there, please? Councillor Deehan. And are we all agreed? Okay, can I get a proposer and second to go into part 2, please? Councillor Mahan and Councillor Irvine. Happy enough? Yeah, that's awesome. That's yeah. Okay, if I just invite the Chief Executive just to surmise part 2, please.
Thank you, Chair. While in committee, the Council considered a report on confidential staff matters with a variety of updates and agreed with the recommendations, and also received an update in relation to a procurement inquiry.
Thank you, Alison. Okay, can I get a proposer and seconder to endorse that report? Councillor Hawkes. Seconder, please. Councillor McPhillips. And we're all agreed. Yeah. Okay, members, that brings the March's PNR to a conclusion. Thanks for your attendance and safe home. Thank you, folks. Thanks.